Hey, it's Nereeda here, author and explorer of All That We Are and More. And today I'm about to be joined by a very special guest. He's all the way from Oregon in the US of A. It's the one and only James Gilliland. James, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, doing great. Thanks for having me. We have an Oregon mailing address, but we're actually in Washington. We're at the base of Mount Adams in Trout Lake, Washington.
Now, that's what I thought, so I should have asked that before we started, but that's cool. I obviously haven't been there yet, so James, it's just so great to have you here. How are you going?
Building some cabins and building a lot of extra units here at the ranch. And so looks like Robert's trying to get a hold of me. But yeah, just been really busy here with all the conferences and all the other things happening. So it's been like a whirlwind between radio shows, conferences, building units here, just regular ranch work. It's been keeping us pretty busy.
So before we dive into all the nitty-gritty and the exciting stuff, can you give those people who perhaps may not know much about you, James, or what you do up at the ranch in Washington, can you give us a bit of an idea of who you are, your background, and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, great. That's my least favorite thing, is talking about myself. But anyway, I'm the founder of ECETI, which stands for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and an author of 4 books, international lecturer, just do just about everything. I'm the ditch digger, janitor here. Whatever needs to get done is basically what I do.
And so your background, you've done a lot of work, on your website. You've been a counsellor, you've been other things like that as well. So what's brought you to here where you are now?
Well, I had visions of the ranch. I had a couple near-death experiences, and I've been kind of a contactee ever since I was a kid, and had a lot of positive experiences. And so when I was in Santa Cruz, California, I had visions of this beautiful mountain, this huge snow-capped mountain, and a river on the eastern border. And I kept seeing the word Little, and I didn't know what it meant, why they were saying Little Mountain, until I got here, and I'm actually on Little Mountain Road, and there's a little mountain behind me. But the vision that I had, seeing over and over again, when I ended up on the land through a series of synchronistic things that happened, it was the exact same vision I had. So I got such a download just standing here. I had 2 bald eagles flying above the mountain show. It looked like something out of the movies, basically, and I was just crying. I had so much energy coming in. It was just incredible. I go, this is it. This is spot.
That's fantastic. And so what happens at the ranch? For people who don't know, what happens? What can they expect?
Oh boy, there's so many things. It's a vortex, and the veils between worlds are very thin. So we have like medicine wheels, we have a Pleiadian circle, we have a Lemurian hill. We have so many things that happen here. If you're into nature spirits, you can see the nature spirits and actually film them. We have a lot of photographs of nature spirits. If you're into the ascended masters that have been appearing here, and we have pictures of Babaji and Mary and quite a few others. Kuan Yin, we're getting a lot of photographs of Kuan Yin lately appearing here, and we have these amazing light ships that put on a show on almost every night. If it's clear sky, you're going to see them, and they power up and respond to the people on the ground. And so it's that's been going on for quite a long time. And everybody goes, when are we going to have contact? And I said, we've had contact here 30-something years at ECETI. I've had contact all my life, and contact has been going on before Egyptian time. So it's not about when are we going to have contact, is when are we going to rise to the occasion. And there's so many people having contact now individually. It's a matter of consciousness. It's when the masses reach a certain level of consciousness and are more focus on universal law and live more according to that, we're going to have contact with the masses.
Absolutely. So I guess that leads me into my next question. What is your take on what's happening in the world right now?
Oh God, there's so much going on. It's a multidimensional thing that's happening on the highest levels. It's like the source itself, or God, Creator, Great Spirit, whatever you want to call it, is pressing in, and all the dimensions are being in. Earth is actually expanding at the same time, coming out. So there's a multidimensional thing happening. We're going through an ascension process, and what's happening is the frequencies are rising, and if you're not frequency specific to this shift that's happening, it's not going to be a fun ticket. It's going to be a rough one. But the days of tyranny are coming to an end. The mind is called the ninth wave, or unity consciousness. That's what's coming through, and we all have to rise to the occasion and adjust to these energies. The separation game, all that control programs, all those things are phasing out, and we're in the process of that. So it'll be a little chaotic, but chaos is a good thing. It means there's change and things are happening. So and what's sad is there's so much social conditioning right now, programming that's happening on a huge stay alive and keep the control program going. Keep the race cards going, the gender cards, keep all the separation games going, and there's a whole different element coming in that's trying to bring everybody together. So there's the separation controlled dominant game, and then there's the planetary liberation game going on at the same time.
And I mean, and so many people are at different parts of the journey with this, aren't they? They're there's people who are, really awakened to what's going on, and they are coming from a place of love, which is really the perfect place to start. And you're right, there's so much chaos. Obviously I always say you've got to begin within, you've got to do the work on yourself, and that will help bring that raise the consciousness and bring that ripple effect across the globe. What do you say to people who are sort of in that space of chaos and sort of don't really know what's going on right now, or how they can step into their power? And also, how do you think, is there a time frame on this, do you think? I know that no one has the exact answer, but what do you think on that? Lots of questions in one. Sorry, James.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna happen soon. That's what the mass are soon. But their soon is different than our soon. But it's unfolding as we speak. It's going to happen faster. The best way to deal with this is to go within. This is an internal process, and take personal responsibility for your attitudes, your emotion, your feeling. Don't get on that victim, persecutor, savior triangle that's been going on for so long. We got to get it, and that's the main thing. Is I see right now, we have a saying: if you don't like what you're feeling, do a healing. So if you don't like the energies you're feeling, there's techniques to clear those energies. We teach people how to do that, and also we teach responsibility. And it's really important right now not to give your power away. If you're seeking something externally, you're leaking. You're like a battery and you're leaking. So many people want to give their power away to this master, this guru, this, and we need to get away from that and go within and make our own connection with source, spirit, whatever, great creator, God, whatever you want to call it, and make our own personal connection with that. And when we do, the best way to explain it is our soul actually sits right next to the heart, and it's through the heart that you connect to the soul. And so when you go within, you make your soul connect, and your soul is connected to the source, and it's multidimensional. So we're a spirit. We're not just a body and a personality. We're a spirit, and that spirit is multidimensional. So as you expand in consciousness or awareness, take in these other planes and dimensions, and that's how you make contact. That's how you contact these higher dimensional beings and, ascended masters and things like that. Everybody's waiting for, Jesus to appear to them or whatever, Kuan Yin or thing. And that does happen here, actually. But it happens because we've gone within and we've made the contact with them and connected with them and have been working with them. So it's an internal thing. We need to get away from all the external distractions and really with our, I say get out in nature and do meditation, do clearing work, and that's the best way. And find a process-oriented therapy where you can heal any wounds or traumas or wrong conclusions experience, including past lives as well. Clean your energy up. And when you do that, you're going to rise in frequency, and you're going to be able to work with these higher frequency beings.
Yeah, I could not agree more with all of that. It's definitely about having that personal responsibility, beginning within, and being able to be your own guru, basically, isn't it?
Exactly. There's a trap I wanted to talk about, and it's like I kind of haven't brought this out so much, but there's an element, and whatever you want to call it, it's a Luciferian element, and they do satanic worship or Saturn worship and things like that. There's a lot of that going on. It's replete throughout the UFO field and the spiritual field, and they're trying to create a new religion, and we really need to get away from that. And a lot of times it's the same people. You look at the top of the field, the very same people are always controlling the narrative, and it's always look at me, I'll tell you what to do, see me, dig me, and we need to get away from that and go within, and it's getting pretty ugly right now, and I've kind of left it alone. I haven't dealt with it, but now it's coming after us, so I'm having to expose it and deal with it. But it's really interesting. And the way they work too is they accuse you of everything they themselves are doing.
Yeah.
And the same thing in politics. They accuse they're doing. It's like, and it's quite interesting. They try to reverse the roles, and so we have to do a heads up on that. Just really be real, and they just make all kinds of claims and assumptions and accusations and things like that. And when you know the research behind who they are and what they're doing, it's the same group. And unfortunately, this goes into really dark areas. It goes into a lot of the child trafficking and pedophilia and even ritual abuse and things like that. Really very sad, what's going on. So we need to be on top of that, pay attention that and do the research on each person that you're working with. And if they're bragging about they're connected with the Rockefellers and the Podestas and the Clintons and things like that, it's a good idea. You might want to think twice before hooking your cart to that program, because those are people you probably shouldn't be associating with, and especially if you're enlightened, you wouldn't be.
Absolutely. And I mean, with all of that sort of stuff going on, I guess that's why more than ever it's so important to be discerning, because one thing that I've learned so far on my journey is I'm very curious, and the more you dive down rabbit holes, the more you will find, and your viewpoints on things can change on people all the time. So to be in contact with who you truly are and being able to follow your intuition is probably the key thing to be able to discern all of this sort of stuff, would you say?
Oh, what I do here is to empower the individual. Like, there's no guru here, and there's no, people go, you're a cult, and I said, try joining. There's me. And we don't ask a percentage of people's income or their assets or anything. This is all just free thinking people with shared ideas and goals that work together. And I make it very clear to people that I don't unique purpose. We all do for being here. And if you follow me, you're lost, because you got to follow your own unique purpose. And that's what we do. We make a way so they can get on with their own reason for being here, their soul purpose. And that's the main goal.
That's what I love about you, James, is that you do empower people to be their own guru, and people, I think, can relate to that, because it isn't about looking outside, it's about looking within. And at this time with so much happening, it's so important, I think. How would you, to someone who may be new to understanding multi-dimensions and things like that, just to bring it back for a minute, how do you explain that to someone who's really curious but probably wants to wrap their head around it a bit more?
Well, I mean, we can see less than 1% of the world in which we live. We can see a small part of the electromagnetic light spectrum with our eyes. Now, cameras can see more of that, and when you go into infrared and other cameras into ultraviolet that can film ultraviolet, you can see whole other dimensions, and we're surrounded by beings, and some are positive, some are not. And we have a mental and emotional body. There's discarnate spirits, there's greys and reptilians and things like that can be mental and emotional. We're not self-aware, you might say. So again, we say if you don't like what you're feeling, do a healing. We need to learn how to clear our fields, clear our energies, and work with the higher dimensional beings. And the higher dimensional beings are always empowering you as an individual, and they work with the heart on up mainly. So the lower beings really work with the first three chakras: survival, sex, and power. And the media, music industry, the movie industry, they work with those energies to trap you in the first three chakras. You need to get out of that and get into the heart and work with the higher chakras, and the heart is love felt for everything. The throat is love for everything, and the third eye is God seen in everything, and the seventh chakra is your crown, which is I am. It's totally merging with the source. The energy comes in through the crown, and the practice we do, like Qigong and things like that, are bringing that energy down the body and balancing the body out. It's the first three chakras aren't bad; they're not evil. They just have to come into balance, and they're, it's really, you really look at the social conditioning. They want by the car, and you'll get the sexy blonde, that's playing volleyball, and they have all these programs, that, if you get these toys, you're going to be, but you get this new car, you're going to be happy, but the car doesn't have any emotions. The emotions were always generated within you, and you don't hard to be happy. You can just be happy for no reason, and we need to get back to that and step out of this, because that's what I found at your death experiences. Is the things I had on me, I didn't own them, and I was working that for myself. And when I had the near-death experience, I came back just blown wide open, and I was in commercial real estate. I had my own office and all these people working for me, and I just walked away. I totally walked away from it. I go, I can't do this anymore. It's the best thing I ever did.
It's amazing. A lot of people who do have those near-death experiences, just how much it cracks them open. And it's obviously happens for a reason. And you've had two near-death experiences. Was it the first one that catapulted you out of the real estate, or the second one?
It was the second one. The first one, I was 5 years old, and I was in the hospital. I had bronchopneumonia. And a woman in blue kept appearing to me, and she would stroke my head and talk to me and pull me out of it. And she did that several nights. And then the last night she gave me this substance to eat, and it was like ice cream, but it wasn't cold. And I was never sick with that. She just pulled me through it. And I didn't know who it was. It turned out to be Mother Mary. And I want to do a disclaimer, I'm not Catholic. And you don't have to be Catholic. Mother Mary is here for everyone. She's a universal being, and she's especially here for the children. But that was, I didn't know who she was at the time. All I know is that she was just this beautiful, loving woman. And I kept asking the woman in blue, "Who's the woman in blue?" And at the hospital, everybody wore green, and so they said, "There is no woman in blue. We're between worlds," is what was going on. And she was coming to me and helping me. And she's been with me ever since. That's why we get the amazing photographs of her. And she's always been working with me. And I've always been a strong supporter of the divine feminine and bringing balance and launching a lot of in the ranch here and through conferences and things like that, because, they've been kind of closed out, especially in the UFO community. They don't recognize the feminine or the spiritual side of things, unfortunately, and they try to keep everything nuts and bolts. And but you really get to work with the experiencers, and the divine feminine is more connected, because the emotional body is much bigger. It's a much larger body and it's receptive to contact. And it's sad that gets shut down. It gets marginalized and shut down, and that has to change. That has to shift. It's about balance again.
Yeah, it is about balance, isn't it? I mean, it's such a, you can have the nuts and bolts, but you need that spiritual side, and that's what people need to tap into more, don't they?
Exactly.
So I've got a question.
Exactly. It's No, go ahead. What's your question?
Oh, sorry, James. It's the delay, everyone. There's a delay. We're doing well, I think, though. I guess, with all of this sort of stuff, being that we're all connected, we're consciousness, everything that we do feel, put out into the world, it does affect it, good, bad, or indifferent. And I guess, it brings me to a question. What are your thoughts on things like 5G? Those kind of things that are happening right now to people who probably may not even be aware that that's coming out.
Yeah, I'm really hoping there's some major intervention on that. There seems to be in our area here in Washington and Oregon, and there's a movement against it to stop it. There's lawsuits, everything else to stop it from coming out. Everything I've heard is not good about it, especially the frequencies that it uses, and it's very detrimental to life and the people who've been around it when they did fire it up in one country, like the bird all dropped out of the sky and everybody started getting nauseous, and it was not good. We really need to stop the nonsense, and it goes back into AI. It's fun to have this one guy attacking me, and all he does is work with computers and logarithms and AI and everything, and he's trying to tell me that I tell him, I go, you know what, you need to shut your computer off and get out in nature and drop heart and spirit, because it's a place to advise anybody, because everything you're coming up with is incorrect, it's wrong. But we really need to get away from that, from, all the phones and the computers and everything else. I think they're good to get a message out. It's kind of through all this nonsense we got lost, and so we got to go. It's almost through the word we got lost, and so it's through we can use these technologies to help people, to awaken people, enlighten people, but we have to realize that we really need to get back into nature. And that's llamas I study with. I love what they said. They said that there's still enlightened on this planet because it's so damn simple, and they said people need to get out in nature and sit down and shut and meditate and focus on love and joy and bliss until you become it. They said it's really simple. But after actions, that there's so many distractions right now, and there's this group and that group and this channel and that channel, and everybody's running the place, and what's the new shiny object, and it's really, if you went within and took all that energy and focused it within and cleared yourself, you would be having all the experiences. You wouldn't be having to ask others what's going on.
Yeah, so true.
I wanted to show something really quick. One of the things we use here is this is like it's Aquarius. It's it used to be Aquarius water. Now it's Langenberg water, and it's in water, and they put it in a cobalt bottle. And this is like prawn in a bottle. And when you drink this water, it's amazing. All your even cancer is anaerobic. You increase the blood oxygen, and it's the highest systemic antibiotic you can get. So there's things to help us get through. There's water technologies. You can use water for fuel. There's healing technology. We're using plasma like plasmids and things like that, technologies. There's so many things you can do. We're building a lot of that right now, and experiencing some phenomenal healing here with these technologies.
That's awesome. And I mean, a lot of talk in the community and things like that around free energy and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, we have that here. I know who has it, and I'm working with scientists that do have it as a thing you put in your hand, and it has 9 coils, and each coil puts out 25,000 watts. It's ice cold when it runs.
Wow.
We tried to get this out in the 90s, and we got such opposition that, his lab got blown up, his family was threatened, his car was stolen, trying to get this out. So that they're waiting for the right energy, the right timing to get this in. But there has to be, a place needs to be made for it, and a place of protection, and you know, the right people. You get a lot of these devices. There's these people that go around and they said, hey, you know, they'll say, I can get your device out. I have all the connections. I want 51% of your technology, and then they shelve it. And that's been happening so much. Even in the UFO, there's people saying, oh, I'm the only one that can get it out. I want 51%, and then nothing happens. It gets shelved, and the money gets diverted somewhere else. And that's been going on quite a bit. But the technology exists. Not only do we have fuelless energy, we have anti-gravity and counter. And, you know, going back and forth to Mars and the moon since the late 60s without fuel. And that technology is starting to expose, you know, all the whistleblowers and the secret space programs and things like that. We don't need rockets. That's just window dressing. You know, NASA, there's two NASAs. You know, there's the dark NASA and the window dressing NASA. You know, so people are starting to realize this, but we need to bring this, especially the healing technology and the fuelless technology. We need to bring that into the open market, you know, to get through these times. We're going to need all the help we can get, because these are really being taxed by these energies, and you know, we're having to take more naps and do cleanses and eat live. Can really help us with that.
So what do you what advice would you give to people who you know, obviously I'm talking to you from Australia here, you know, you're over where you are in Washington. You've got a portal there where, you know, things happen probably a lot more. What advice can you give to people who are listening to this and going, okay, what can I do? How can I help? And you know, obviously we can do the work ourselves, but is there any other advice or ideas that you would give?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're working on ECETI Australia, and Peter Slattery's been doing that. And he's got amazing footage. He's best footage on the planet right now. He's having the most contacts and everything else, but unfortunately he's been very marginalized and kind of shunned in the UFO community because it's just jealousy and competition. It's sad. But we are working together, getting a place right now where we'll have ECETI Australia, and we'll have a place where people can come, and we'll probably be doing a lecture circuit there as well in Australia. We have an ECETI Japan, and there's some people working in Ireland right now. We have a couple others that we're working on opening up different ECETIs, but yeah, if you go to ECETI Australia or ECETI.org Australia, you know, that all pops up, and you can find out more information on that. But it's kind of we're looking at land right now, and we're looking at, you know, putting some units together and making a retreat center. And ECETI is just not about ETs; it's about process-oriented therapy. You know, there'll be Qigong and yoga and healing technologies there as well. So it incorporates a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that it's got that real holistic approach, so people can go there and really experience a wide variety of things. And by the way, I'll be putting all the links on screen and under this, so if you're watching and listening to this, you can just hit those links. You can get in contact with James and Peter Slattery as well. So yeah, it's an incredible time for you guys too, because you are expanding and being able to bring the message of coming back to yourself sort of across the planet really at this time.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, because it's not just doing the conferences and doing the counseling work and everything else, because we're still building units here. I just walked in from building 3 cabins. I just put the doors on finally, so it's a matter of cleaning up and painting the doors. We have 3 nice cabins on, so I'm kind of stoked about that. Finally, it's just like, you know, it's been quite a project. But you know, we have several. I think we have 4 yurts here and 3 cabins and I think eight rooms. You know, it's still small, but there's hotels not too far away that people can come to. But yeah, if people want to come to the ranch, we always tell people you want to camp here because you're on the land, and you know, you'll wake up at 3 a.m. and get out your tent, and there'll be a ship there. You know, that happens quite a bit. So 3 to 5, it's really busy here. They come down low, and usually from around 10 to 11, 30 or 12, we have a lot of activity in those 2 times.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to get there one day, James. It's going to be a great day. I'll high five you in person.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Yeah, that'll be great.
It will be great. I can't wait. So, what are you most passionate and most excited about at the moment in your life?
Oh, boy. When you connect with these beings, the energy exchange is so incredible. I mean, they just exude this pure love and joy and bliss energy. That's hard to beat, and once, when you have a near-death experience, you go through all the dimensions, you end up with a source that's really hard. I mean, after that, everything else is just interesting, so it's hard to beat, but it's just ongoing, and I love watching people open up and, release the past and heal and open up and have their own experiences. I really enjoy, seeing that happen. But I don't know. And there's the downside too. It's like there will be people throwing stones at you and saying, that's all nonsense. And you have that side too. I just ignore it. It's kind of funny because we have so much triple PhD Boeing engineers, Lockheed Skunk Works engineers, Air Force base commanders, pilots, air traffic controllers, all have been, and a lot of them know what we have. What we have, and they go, these aren't ours. These are landing, they're morphing into 3, back to 1 again, and they're doing things that our ships aren't capable of doing. So they know they're not ours, and there's just a long history of that, even going back to the Native American lore about the ships, and Kenneth Arnold, who lost sight of the ships in 1947 when they landed on the western slopes of Adams, which is front yard, basically. So there's just so much evidence and a long history of activity here, but you still have those people attacking you, and they try to assassinate your character and everything else. But it's kind of interesting because they end up establishing their own ignorance and their own character when they do that, because it always back. And so I just let them dig their own hole. I think it's kind of funny because the stuff they come up with is so ridiculous, so overwhelming. But it's both. You can't shrink when they come after you, and you can't swell with pride when the cool. So you got to just stay even and neutral, and you're going to get both. You're going to have people love you and people hate you,
and that's going to happen
when you upset. People. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're upsetting the science apple cart, the religion apple cart, especially the archaeology apple cart. When we find our origins go back 650 million years, and there's trilobites with on them, and the Palladian colonies of Atlantis and Lemuria, we find out those were real. All this, when you find out our history goes way, way back, and it started with the stars before it came here, it really upsets people's apple carts. But we've been in all the places. We just don't have access to the memories. It's a lot of us have lived in the Pleiades. We've lived in the line system. We've lived as Syrians. Some of us have been feline beings. We've had all these different lives in these other places, and we've just that memory. But that's what we have to help people do. They access these other advanced cultures that they lived in, and things like that. And that's what the Earth needs most of all. It needs access to that information on very spiritually and technologically advanced civilizations, so we can meet that here, and to bring in the healing technology and the higher wisdom as well.
It's the wisdom that we need, the higher wisdom. And I think you're saying before, when people's perceptions of reality are challenged, it can be quite confronting for people, and sometimes really overwhelming to realize that things perhaps aren't exactly what they thought they were.
Well, yeah, the first colonization programs actually happened in Australia, and people think humanity started in Africa. No, they started in Australia, and from there they went to Africa, and everybody has Aboriginal genes. We all do. Everybody on the planet has Aboriginal genes. The gold in the breastplates of the pharaohs came from Ballarat in Australia. And the oldest mine, there's the oldest ruins and everything are in Australia. They're not in Africa. So it began in Australia, and then from there it went to Africa. And we have a long history of the Anunnaki coming here and tinkering with a human that was developing naturally here. And that's replete throughout the ancient scriptures, and the Vedas and things like that. But it's been going on for a long time. The Earth's been colonized several times. They had to start over as primitives due to, pole shifts and meteor impacts and huge volcanoes going off. And, civilizations have come and gone and were lost. And we've all been starting over. And this is all part of the historic record. But, they don't want to, they have a narrative and they want to keep that narrative. And the professors have written books on this is what happened, and they're wrong. They're very and so we have to get past all that. Even the religions, every religion has their bearded god. And whenever you have a bearded god, you're talking about the Anunnaki, those who came from heaven to the earth, and some were benevolent and some weren't. Some were malevolent, wrathful gods that were genocidal maniacs, and there's all loving, all forgiving gods. And even the Bible has two different gods in it that really upset people, but the Old Testament has this jealous, wrathful God. And, that guy was a tyrant. And to have the new covenant, when Jesus came in, he goes, I bring you a new covenant, an all loving and all forgiving God. And he was aligned with Yahweh, which is. And so these are extremely advanced beings that were coming here, but who created them? That's the question we have to ask, is whenever you have a name and a body or a personality, who created them? Did they have a mother? Nobody talks about their mother, and in the most ancient times, God was female. And so the female gave birth to all creation, and everything was family. And that's more accurate, actually, if you get into the true creation. But everything is connected. Everything is within the unified field. The only difference between these ETs is they pull from more of the unified field of consciousness and energy than we do.
Yeah.
They have more access. They're more evolved. But we can go there. We can expand in consciousness and all the way back to the source. We have that ability. We just have to do our homework, and get on with it.
Yeah. And I mean, for people who want to do that work, it really, the meditation, doing the healings, like you said, I mean, and there's so much when you start talking about all of this, things starting in Australia and the multidimensional levels, it's just so mind expanding in itself to go, wow, like, I mean, yeah. The thing that I've learned, the more that I know, the more I realize I don't know. And then there's all the stuff that I don't know that I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. The more enlightened you become, the more you realize how much you don't know, and there's so much more out there, And I've seen beings. I've seen so many different types of beings, and I know I've just touched the surface. I've seen these little like 13th dimensional gnome type beings.
Wow.
They're powerful, but they look like little gnomes. I've seen really short little beings. And I've seen 12, 13 foot tall beings as well, so, and size doesn't matter. Sometimes the smaller beings are more powerful than the bigger beings, so.
Yeah.
And they come in all colors too. There's blue, there's all kinds of different beings out there. A lot of beings they're copper based instead of iron based. So they'd be a blue or a greenish colored skin. And it's just because they're copper based instead of iron based. So there's so much going on out there, but are we ready for it? There's no purposeful good in contacting somebody that is steeped in religion or judgment or fear. We have to get beyond that if we're going to start working with these other beings. And we're not even getting along with the races that are here right now. I mean, there's all this division game going on, separation. What are we going to do when somebody's blue that shows up, or somebody, that's, doesn't look like us at all, how are we going to handle that, So we have to evolve, basically.
Yeah, and I think, like, because we are, there's obviously people who are ready for that sort of stuff, but we kind of have to reach that tipping point, I'm gathering, until the whole collective is ready to go, or there's enough anyway, sort of 50%. I don't know what the percentage would be, but...
Yeah. Well, what's going to happen, and it's already happening, the ships are showing up everywhere right now. And the government has to disclose. It's not optional anymore. They're just going to have egg on their face if they don't disclose. And the disclosure is going to come from the sky, the higher beings. They're the ones that are in control of it, basically. And the more they up the game, which they are, pretty soon they're just going to be seen everywhere, and they won't be able to suppress this. It's already happening. And, one day the whole, they're just going to decloak, and there's going to be ships everywhere. Thousands of them, and they're going to be jockeying for parking space, basically. Yeah. And I don't know what we're going to do with that. I mean, some of these ships are massive. I mean, they're miles long. They're huge. And we've got a massive ship park right next to the moon right now, and everybody knows about it, but they're not talking about it. So much going on right now. It's a planetary liberation thing. We've been held in suppression and been shut down and manipulated for so long, and all that's changing right now. And the whole planet's being liberated, our DNA's being activated, our soul memories are coming up, our dreams are becoming stronger, and it's just a process. We're becoming more telepathic, and our sacred senses are popping on, and people are having all these telepathic experiences. They're seeing forward or backward in time. They're bilocating. There's all kinds of crazy things going on, and right now with people, and can help them understand it when it does happen. You have an outer body experience and you're not ready for it. It really freaks you out, and so it'd be good to have a little, along the way, and also, some of these other entities pop up that you need to move out of your space as well.
So what happens with that?
Feel unseen negative influences. Well, what happens is there's a lot of people that feeling really tired and angry, and they're having all these emotional outbursts and things like that. Well, some of that's not in them. They're feeling these other energies, and they're trying to get them to do things that ordinarily they wouldn't do. And so they're unseen negative influences, and so we need to break those. You see shapeshifters, people losing it. They're losing their form, and it's happening with the cameras now and things like that. There's a lot of that going on. There's just been a lot of oppression and suppression. And I always tell people the reason there's so much inhumanity on the planet is there's so much non-human influence. But a lot of people aren't ready for that, but there is a lot of non-human influence, and we need to deal with that and move that out of our space. So, there's shadow beings, there's grays, there's some negative grays, reptilians, there's serpent beings. There's a lot of these different types of beings that we need to be aware of and not allow them to influence us. And what's nice is we have the higher beings that are just like us. We have guys, and they're more like us. They look just like us. And the Pleiadians actually into Lemuria, so they're our ancestors. And so we're just a big genetic soup down here of that we're developing naturally, along with ET genes as well, and off-world genes. We're such a genetic soup down here that, not just human genetics, but plant and animal genetics as well. The terraformers brought their trees and theirs here as well. So it's so much more. This is just a massive biological library here on the planet. It needs to be preserved.
And I mean, obviously humanity, as human beings, we're made up of so many different things, and we're actually quite powerful creatures when it comes down to it.
Oh yeah, we are. We have to engage that, and we have to remember too, real power always empowers. It never overpowers. And so if you have power over others, then you're going to draw to you those type of entities, and you want to stay away from that. So those that seek power over others and wealth and all these other things, are going in the wrong direction, and they allow those type of entities. It's like the mind in which you seek is the mind in which you connect. So if you're in service mode and you want to help others and others to heal and awaken and things like that, those are the type of beings that are going to come to you. But there's also a saying, the closer you get to nirvana, the more the demons rear their ugly heads. So the more light you generate, other entities are going to come in and try to mess with you and divert you or distract you from your purpose. But they'll come through friends and family and everything else and try to derail your enlightenment. And so you got to be aware of that and really stay centered, on your own connection and learn how to do these clearings and things like that. And there's some people you might have to walk away from, and some of those you might have to walk away from, and because they're not talk about that. He said you have your biological family, and if your brother's a thief, you have to love him and accept him. But the thing is, you hang out with your spiritual family because that's the one that feeds you. So it's all about frequency and vibration. You hang out with other people that are expanding and opening and awakening, and you share your experiences, and that's where you want to go. You don't want to get pulled down into the chaos, and all the blame and projection and drama that's going on. And there's a lot of that happening right now.
And you got to be aware of it, don't you? And I think you've spoken to this before, when it comes to enlightenment, it's not just about all the nice, shiny, fun stuff. It's realizing both sides of the coin, isn't it? And then being able to step back and see what's going on.
Yeah, you're gonna go through your dark night of the soul, and that's part of it. I mean, you're gonna look around you and go, "Where am I? What am I doing here? Why am I with this person?" And things like you're gonna go through all these things when you go through it, and that's just part of the process. But the good news is, on the other side, it's awesome. When you let go of these things and move up, move forward, it's awesome, and everything comes. You never lose anything because everything comes back to you. So when I had that awakening, I left everything. I sold my office. I sold everything. I left, and I came up here with nothing. And it's crazy. I mean, I have a 70-acre ranch, and it's worth millions and everything else. And that was all done on unique soul purpose and writing the books and trusting. And there's times there's times I was pitying or things like that. It was some rough times in the beginning, but now I look at now and it's like, it's great. It's like I wouldn't trade things for the world.
Yeah. And it's all because you followed your soul purpose, your heart. And even though at the start it was a bit bumpy, because when change happens, it's the transformation, you're kind of moving energy, that's bound to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, your family's going to freak out, your friends are going to freak out, and they're going to tell you you're crazy, and now they're all here. My whole family's moved up here, so they figured it out, and I've told them all kinds of things that were going to happen, and they did happen, and so they've been around long enough that they know it's real. They can't deny it anymore.
James, I'm so loving this conversation. I don't want it to end, but I know that you probably have to have dinner and things like that. I've got one last question before we wrap up and just talk about where your website and how people can find you again. If you could say one thing to the world, James, what would you say?
Oh, just, basically it's time to just start being kind to each other.
Yeah.
That's it. Like universal law is basically universal peace and brother sisterly love and individual freedom and prosperity for everyone. I mean, that's universal law, and we just need to start living according to that, and just start being kind to ourselves as well. Stop beating ourselves, judging ourselves, and accepting the judgments of others, right now, because, you're good with God, basically, because God doesn't have an ego. Judge. So you're always there. You're always forgiven there, and go there. Don't get your love or acceptance and approval pointed. But if you go within, you make that personal connection. You're going to feel such love and joy and bliss that everything is little stuff. It's and that's where we need to go to get through these times.
Well, hopefully we can get you on a giant megaphone and you can get that message out there, because I think it's an excellent one. So James, just to wrap. Say that again.
Oh, yeah, if I had a megaphone, I'd say stop. Just stop it. Like start being kind to each other. Stop being kind to the planet. Wake up, basically.
Yeah, I love it. We've got to get this happening. So James, how can people find you? What's your website again?
Yeah, if you go to ECETI.org is the website, and the ECETI Stargate on YouTube. That's where our radio show is. It's BBS Radio. You can go to BBS Radio, and that's every Saturday night, 8 o'clock. And we have a live chat in the website. And so if you go to ECETI Stargate on YouTube, you can go there and you can actually interact with people while we're there. And usually the guest comes in, and also I'm usually when I can. Sometimes I'm busy doing other things, but we have moderators in there. It's a great group of people. And so those are the best places to connect us. And then you can email us through there, or there's a phone number there if you want to come out and check out the ranch. And we have, a Skywatch weekend. If we aren't doing a major conference, if we have a major group here, then we close it, for that group. But, we're much open 90% of the time.
That's awesome. So is there anything else, James, that you want to say before we wrap up this awesome conversation?
Yeah, just keep an open mind, a loving heart, and pure intent. That's all you need. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this one out and to make contact. And just don't give your power away to others. It's a personal journey, and go within and make it happen. And if they're not empowering you, to do it, then you might want to find a new guru, or because there's a lot of gurus out there, but they're not all what they're cracked up to be. So.
Well, James, I'm just going to say thank you on behalf of myself and every single person watching this today. It's been absolutely an honor to have you on the show and to have your wisdom imparted on all of us. So thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, you have to come out here, or I might be going to Australia as well. So
awesome.
I should say Australia. I know you don't say Australia.
You're going to say Australia.
I'll throw a snag Barbie.
Yeah.
I'll throw a snag on the Barbie, and it'll be good.
Doing so well.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right.
Oh, thanks so much, James. Have an awesome night.
All right. Well, thanks. You too. Keep up the great work that you're doing as well.
Thanks, James.